What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What's going on, Tyson?
Nothing, man. It's Super Bowl week. It's like 45 degrees where I live. This is not normal for the Super Bowl, so it's been a pretty good week.
It just got hot here today, too. It was like 50 after a monsoon season, it felt like. Uh, yeah, it feels good, man. I'm excited for it. And, it feels right because it's in LA. So we might as well get some warm weather as well. So we're not just looking at the Super Bowl like, oh, those guys in LA, so lucky.
Yeah, I've never thought that about Los Angeles. No
Well,
capacity.
Well, you mentioned it, Tyson. It's Super Bowl week. So, for you listeners out there, Tyson and I have a big week surrounded around the Super Bowl as well. We are doing a 3-part podcast week talking about how the Bengals can win the Super Bowl, talking about how the Rams can win the Super Bowl. We're breaking it down. We're going in depth, talking about what we expect. And then, of course, we're going to cap it off with our gambling episode where we're going to go through the pick sheet, props, give our best bets, player props. And of course, we're going to have a little fun, whether it's Gatorade color, national anthem, heads or tails. We're going to go through everything you might see on a pick sheet and, if going into a Super Bowl party, and we'll give our thoughts on it. Not everything, but, we'll have some fun with it. So that's something to look forward to as well. But Tyson, we are starting off with your Cincinnati Bengals and how they can win their first Super Bowl and their third appearance in the big game.
Sheesh. First and foremost, congratulations, Cincinnati, for getting here. We didn't talk much about it to this point, but this doesn't happen. Every other team in the NFL that is going to pick number one ever, right now and going forward, isn't going to have the luxury the Bengals have. Nailing the Joe Burrow pick, right? Nailing the Jamar Chase pick, having this giant influx of free agents. And then the scary part about Cincinnati is this is a flash in the pan thing, $65 million in cap space this offseason is what they have to go play with. If you want to go, if I'm Leonard Fournette, guy like that, okay, maybe he's not going there because Joe Mixon, but you know what I'm trying to say. End of kind of one last ride to get the bag, or I go play with Joe Burrow and they pay me, fair wage, competitive wage with what I think I'm worth on the open market. This team could get better, and I think that it's a fool's errand for the other teams in the NFL trying to copy what Cincinnati has done.
Yeah, it feels a lot like that Seattle team with Russell Wilson, where they found their franchise quarterback on the rookie deal, had really good players around him in place already, and they're like, we just have like cash to just go spend. So that's why they upgraded. They spent like $12 million on Percy Harvin to return kicks just because they had the money. And we could be seeing the Bengals doing similar stuff next year. We're just, okay, what's like a luxury item that we can add here? Okay, let's go upgrade that position. Okay, who's on the open market? We don't really need it, but we'll pay him $20 million over 2-3 years. Boom, add him to the roster. Like you're correct, Tyson. I mean, this roster could be substantially upgraded next year with veteran players hitting the free agency market.
They could be real scary, which I'm sure people in Cincinnati love, and I'm sure people in Cleveland hate. And I don't mean to bring them up into this, but it just feels like, you could have fucking done the same thing, but or at least something took 10 years. You guys have been whatever. So for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, I'm going to start it off. I'm going with just keep it simple, right? Joe Burrow is a winner. Joe Burrow got you here. Joe Burrow is the number one quarterback in the league against zone coverage. The Rams play a ton of zone coverage. So it sounds silly, but just be yourselves. Don't get too cute with it. Zach Taylor, don't be, drawing up flea flickers and trick plays and all this kind of stuff. You have pass catchers. Yes, Joe Ramsey's amazing. But to think that he's going to dictate the terms of engagement all day long on Jamar Chase, I think is foolish. Because I don't think that there's a corner good enough or with the way that the rules are currently set up to be able to do that to a high-end wide receiver. Like Jamar Chase is making his case as a top 5 guy in the league right off rip. So I think if he plays well, if they are going to run zone, then it's a huge T. Higgins day. Go sit down somewhere. Tyler Boyd, go sit down somewhere. CJ Uzama. And then Joe Mixon. Just be good enough. This doesn't have to be a 130-yard Joe Mixon game, but if he can get you 70 yards on the ground, you're in really good shape. And I think that the way that they do that is almost like I don't want to say old school because it's not old school, but the OG Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, 8-minute drive kind of things, just to keep the game close. And then once you kind of have gotten your rhythm, that's when it's 40 yards to Jamar Chase over here. Joe Mixon's taking a screen pass, whatever. And then you start taking those shots, which is when I think this team is truly special, like Kansas City Chiefs level special, being able to hit those home runs. They haven't won one, so we don't say that out loud yet.
That I think that zone point is really smart by you because we think about, okay, so Jalen Ramsey, they're just going to shadow Jamar Chase all game, and he's pushing for that. But in reality, that's not what they do on the Rams front. Raheem Morris runs the zone. He created a new position for Jalen Ramsey this year called like a star position, where basically he's the center fielder of that defense. People have kind of speculated that they're going to do more of a hybrid type of role between Jalen Ramsey, between more man coverage and still resorting back into that star type of position, just because you don't want to change that defense. Like all of a sudden you get to the biggest game of the year. Okay, let's completely go away from what we do because we want to match up and we want to respond to what the Bengals do. It's like, no, they have to respond to what we do. Like we're a good defense and we have the advantage in the trenches. So for the Bengals, I think you're right. Take your chances, attack the zone. They got to be methodical too. You got to take what the defense gives you, not try to force those shots in there. And I think that's a good point with Zach Taylor. Kind of feel the stage. You haven't necessarily always just been forcing balls down the field. It feels the Bengals, those big plays come naturally in a way. Like Burrow sees a matchup that, okay, maybe a defensive back's asleep on Jamar Chase. Boom, that's where you hit that 70-yarder. It's not like we're going to go out there, we're just going to go throw go routes all game, and we'll hit one eventually.
And I think that's the beauty of Cincinnati is that it's like it's calculated in a way that it doesn't feel calculated, if that makes sense. Like it's effortless, I guess, to them watching it. And a lot of that, I think, is the connection between Burrow and Chase. But on offense, it's do what you do and stick to the script and just be the Bengals. On defense, I'm looking at them and just be malleable. I think like that sounds, again, simple, but we saw the adjustments they made at halftime against Kansas City and completely abandoning their game plan, showing the Chiefs something they hadn't seen and being able to, figure them out, not let them score and go on and win the game. Against the Rams, I just think they have to get funky because Matt Stafford, for as good as he is and as long as he's been in the league, he still gets tricked. He gets tricked, I think, more than other high-level quarterbacks. You can get Matt Stafford to believe that he can gun this throw in when all of a sudden the coverage is different and you can get an interception. If you can get, run some stunts and stuff up the middle and the front, get some pressure on him, make him short arm one throw. We love that Matt Stafford short arm. We all know that's a house call for Jesse Bates. And I think that there is going to be opportunities for them to kind of sit back and adjust and feel the way that the Rams are, going about things, because I don't think this is going to be a first half blowout like it was in Kansas City. And then to come out in the second half, based on what they've seen, play just with that fire Sam Hubbard, playing like an absolute man possessed, getting to the quarterback. So it's less like things they've done all year, and it's more just if you can do what you did last week, which they haven't been able to do on a regular basis all year long. But since they've been in the playoffs, this defense is opportunistic, they're hungry, and they're fast. And those are the three things that I think can really help them win the game.
Okay. Go through those bullet points again, just real quick. How the Bengals can win in your eyes.
Just, first of all, dominate zone coverage, which I think that they're going to be able to do because they've done that all year. Don't get too cute. Don't get prisoner of the moment. We have to, go for a 40-yard pass to Jamar Chase right here with 10 minutes left in the second quarter, and then you find yourself trailing. On defense, just be able to say, okay, this isn't working. Switch to something else. Just be exotic. Try to trick Stafford, and then be opportunistic, because there will be this Rams team. Stafford turns the ball over a lot, and they've had some fumble problems, right, in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So if that's the game, a lot of Super Bowls, come down to that fumble. We can go through our heads. It's just the one fumble. And if Cincinnati can end up with that ball, I like their chances to win.
Yeah, or that one interception, like you said. I mean, Tricks and Stafford in a big moment. Boom, out route, intercepted. We saw James Harrison. He did that in the Super Bowl. You mentioned the Steelers already. Tracy Porter, absolutely. I mean, these are things that happen in these big games when everything's so tight and possessions are limited. So that's Tyson's game plan for the Bengals to win. And I do want to say a disclaimer before I go into mine. Of course, like we could go through, the Bengals have to protect Joe Burrow, but like I don't see that happening here. Like the offensive line does not match up with the defensive line, and they haven't protected Joe Burrow pretty much in any of these playoff games. It's just been an overcoming that the offense has done in big spots, and the defense has made opportunistic plays with interceptions, turnovers, or getting big stops. So we can tell you, every team's fairy tale is to have a perfect 7-on-7 against air type of situation.
Score 100 points.
Yeah, score 100. Like, okay, let's get it. Tyson, this is what we think. Like, if we were in charge of these game plans, this is what we are trying to implement in these pre-game meetings, going in these walkthroughs, going into these practices. Like, this is what we would be preaching to our team in order for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. So I mainly have 2 big points. I agree with Tyson on a lot of them, but these are what really stood out to me. And I think the Bengals defense has to limit the explosive plays from the Rams. That gives the Rams a ton of juice as all of a sudden a boom 30-yard in route to Cooper Kupp. Odell Beckham takes a slant 20. Like the Rams have these explosive plays, and that's what really drives that offense. And the Bengals are very capable of limiting these type of plays. I mean, we saw what they did to Mahomes and the Chiefs in the second half. They have to do that. I think for all 4 quarters in this one. The Rams were able to see what the Bengals did in the second half against the Chiefs. I think they're going to have a counter punch that Andy Reid and Mahomes weren't able to throw in that AFC Championship game. So they're going to have to play extremely well. No blown coverages, match up over the top, and really limit that, whether or not you want to throw 2 safeties over top. If you want to bracket Kupp, that could leave, Beckham to have a big game, could leave one of the tight ends to have a big game. But you just have to limit explosive plays when they come. Nothing 60-plus yards, 40-plus yards, I think even. And I think that gives the Bengals defense a good chance to hang in so their offense can get rolling and make the plays that we've seen them do all playoffs and pretty much all season long, quite honestly. So that's my big takeaway there. And the second one for me is the Bengals, they have to limit the rushing attack of the Rams. During this playoffs, that defense for the Bengals has been very susceptible to the rushing attack, like giving up gashes on the ground. I think they gave about 4.5 yards a carry in the regular season. The Rams want to run the ball. Like that's what their offense revolves around, is utilizing that zone rushing attack, getting Cam Akers downhill, getting Sony Michel downhill, and then using Stafford play action, and that's how they set up their bombs. So the Titans went away from it. The Raiders went away from it, and the Chiefs went away from running the ball. I don't think the Rams will do that because it's in McVay's DNA to just run, and see if you can stop it. I don't think – and McVay, by nature, he's a little bit more of a conservative coach. And you're like, what? No, they have explosive plays. But that's all set up based on their rushing attack. That's all set up on a plan. So I think McVay is going to go into this knowing he has the advantage running the ball, and I think he's really going to hammer the trenches. It's up to the Bengals to limit that and force Stafford into these obvious passing down situations, these 3rd and longs where, like you said, Tyson, now you can disguise your defenses. Now you can get a little tricky, and now he can be opportunistic and try to force Stafford into something where he can make a mistake and then the game changes and turns on its head.
And that's the 2 areas that make the Rams so scary is because if one thing is working, then the other one inherently is going to work. And if they're not getting big plays, they're probably still running the ball well. And if they're not running the ball, then Cooper Kupp finds his way to an 80-yard touchdown. So I think those 2 things are just going to be, if the Rams come out in the 3rd quarter, the opening possession of the 3rd quarter, and Cam Akers has 60 yards on the ground or whatever, averaging 5 yards a pop, and he gets it handed to him a bunch of times, then the game's over. then we can just say, okay, this is, unless it's not actually over, but there's a pretty good chance that LA is going to win this game. Whereas if Cincinnati can come out, and again, I'm saying in the second half, just because like these Cincinnati Bengals, like you have to make sure they're dead. It's not enough to be up. Like 28-3 is incredible, and like probably will never happen again. But like that's the level of you need to be careful here with these guys that Cincinnati brings to the table. So I just think, and then as far as bracketing Cooper Kupp and leaving Odell open, I just think it's more than that. It's just going to be a huge day for the linebackers because they're going to be the guys that are going to have to stop the run because the defensive line isn't big enough or physical enough, in my opinion, I think they might end up getting pushed around a little bit up front. So it's on those linebackers to have big days and to play reckless a little bit because when the chips are down, I don't think that Matt Stafford's going to trust Tyler Higbee the way that he'll trust a Cooper Kupp or an Odell Beckham. So maybe, if you're a step late in coverage, it's not like against Kansas City, which, by the way, they actually did a pretty good job there on Travis Kelce in the second half. Yeah, he got his, but that's the best in the league. That's what he does. They didn't let him take over the game. Just a repeat performance from those guys, which, again, is asking a lot, but they've shown they can do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we just saw them play the perfect game in the second half that they could to knock out the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a tall task. I mean, to do it again in a stage that's unfamiliar to anybody within that organization, except for Zach Taylor, who was an assistant under Sean McVay when the Rams went to the Super Bowl a few years ago.
So nobody in the organization scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That's all. That's all you need to know.
Exactly. And we always, it's always, okay, the pressure of the game. It's like, it's not just that you're out of your routine. You're doing more media appearances. Everything takes longer. The warm-ups are longer. The halftime is longer. The fanfare is crazier. It's more of like a pageant. Like this isn't just a regular game. How do the Bengals respond to that? Does that take them out of their element?
I think with a guy like Joe Burrow under center, where we talk about those talking points when it comes to Super Bowl every year, it feels like, and oftentimes it is, it's a big deal. It feels like, with the exception of like the 8 games that he played last year with his torn ACL, that was every week for the kid before he got to the pros. It was a 4-hour game with a giant overtime or giant halftime, and huge all eyes on us media stuff. So yeah, they're young, but I think that like Burrow and Chase and all these guys just being winners, and I think you could say, okay, Joe Burrow, halftime is going to be 3 days long. He'd be sitting in the locker room, he'd have chewed through 3 mouthpieces, chomping at the bit, ready to get back out there. So I just think like it's cool Joe for a reason. Like I think the team will follow his lead. I don't think any of that. That's part of the reason that I'm having such a hard time picking the winner of this game because I believe in Joe Burrow so much and his ability to not only lead but just to win. Like it's pretty high level.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, man. So the roundtable game plan here for the Bengals in some nation: attack the zone when on offense, attack what the Rams are throwing at you, have Joe Mixon be formidable, man. I mean, if you have to go on these long drives to do it, I mean, so be it. That's what needs to be done. That's what needs to be done. Defense, limit big plays. Have to do it, and you have to stop the rushing attack. And on the other side, make plays when you can. Be opportunistic. And if they can do those things, Tyson, I believe that the Bengals will be winning their first Lombardi trophy in franchise history.
If Joe Burrow has the ball last and it's a close game, I got the Bengals.
There we go. As promised, it's going to be a quick one. That's what we laid out for you. Tomorrow, we're giving you the Rams angle. How do we think the Rams can win the Super Bowl? We've got a lot of stuff for you guys upcoming during Super Bowl week. So make sure you like, subscribe so you don't miss anything. Share these podcasts. It's going to be a fantastic one. I can't wait for Sunday, Tyson. I know you can't wait. I'm excited to talk to you tomorrow about it.
Absolutely. Let's get
All
it.
right, everybody.
One down, 2 to go.
1 down, 2 to go. Follow us on social media as listed below. For the listeners, BWAKAI for me, Tyson Gentry, DENTRI for his last name, and of course, the Roundtable Pod on Instagram. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.